Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the College Football UK podcast brought to you by the AAW Network. As always, I am your host, Fletch, and joining me today, my repeat co-hosts back with me again, Nick and Sam. How are we both, gentlemen?
Good.
All good.
We love to hear it. We love to hear it. It is a wonderful Wednesday. We've just passed 2 days of pure madness in the NFL as the negotiating period opened on Monday. And I do believe an hour or so ago, the new league year officially began. So happy New Year, to you all. Um, the exciting times. It's been a lot of chaos. How have you both coped dealing with like the billion tweets from Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero and Adam Schefter and all that sort of stuff that have been going on?
Ignore them.
Smart.
Quite
Um,
easy.
I wasn't happy that today is also a very sad day that we have officially announced that we're releasing Cooper Cup. So
yeah,
today is a sad day.
Right.
yeah.
So I don't get it. Explain this to me, Sam, because I don't get this. Why why recruit Devontae Adams at 23 million a year when he's essentially the same player as Cooper Cup, who would cost you 3 million a year less? So why get rid of Cup at 20 million a year to get Devontae Adams in, who's essentially the same player, for 3 million a year more? I don't get the move.
I'm going to assume it's something to do with what the restructuring of his contract probably was something to do with it.
Right.
So I'm assuming that we probably wanted to restructure it. Well, they probably wanted to restructure his contract because it'll be that he's essentially probably going to cost too much. Also, I think part of it is just down to the fact that you know Cup's injury record recently hasn't been great. Puka's injury record isn't great, and we can't have another situation where we're relying on two wide receivers who are basically the same player and potentially both getting injured at the same time and being in the same situation we were at the start of the season and also a couple of seasons ago. So I think it's a mixture of things, and I think it's just I don't know, maybe Devontae Adams is a slightly different type of wide receiver to Cup and to Puka. So I maybe just think it's a slight
I
change potentially.
I did wonder whether it was something similar to like at the Steelers. Mike Tomlin keeps everything in house. Nobody knew how crazy Antonio Brown was. Nobody knew that Le'Veon Bell had any issues. And then no sooner do they leave the Steelers, shit hits the fan. And I just wondered whether there's something with Cup that's not that nobody knows except the Rams, and that's why they want to get rid of him. And I
Um,
wondered whether it was something like that.
I doubt it. He's been sort of a major pillar of the community and all of that, and we've obviously done a big video for him. I think it's more just a case of that, you know, for a number. I mean, it could be a number of reasons. Which want to change it up, want to refresh it. I'd say it could be just a different style of player that they're looking at, and Devontae Adams is slightly different to the way that Cup is. Cup is technically on a decline, so it's probably just a case of a mixture of all of those things. Um, I mean, it's sad because I mean he was my favorite player when I first started watching him. So to see him sort of leave along with Aaron Donald the year before is sort of my two favorite players. It's sad, but yeah, I understand that it does seem a bit odd that we would basically pay more money for another veteran when we could have just kept the one we have, and I'd have preferred if we kept Cup. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I mean, it's been a fun few days though. I mean, obviously, it certain things happen and heartbreaking when players you absolutely love leave over this couple of days. Even if you've known about it since January, it becomes official on today, and it's just a sad day sometimes. But also,
You know what is crazier is
what?
that we're paying Tutu Atwell 10 million, and D Hop is getting paid half of that for the same year. That's weirder.
But is there any? I know there's been a few standouts and a few crazy ones. What's just a couple that have really stood out to you in the NFL free agency trades? over the last day or two.
I thought the Milton Williams thing was fantastic. He was ready to sign for Carolina. He couldn't put pen to paper, but everything was all organised. Apparently, there was pictures ready to go of him. Him in a Panthers team, and then the Patriots just swan in and say, "We'll give you 5 million a year more." Okay, and snatch him from under the noses of Carolina.
Got Chris
I thought
Kamara. Chris Kamara stood outside. Is it? Oh, what's the name of the step? What's the name of the Panther Stadium? Um. Either
uh,
way, don't matter. Just but stood outside with Jeff Stelling going. It looks like Milton Williams is
unbelievable,
about
Jeff.
to sign for a franchise, but for who? Chris Kamara. Um.
I don't know, Jeff.
Well, he's turned up
But
outside. He's turned up in North Carolina, but apparently he's on a flight now to Boston, and no one knows. Um. Well, other than that, what any others that have stood out to you over the last couple of days?
Joey Bosa going to the Steelers is an interesting one. See, is
Bill-
it?
he
Yeah,
went
it's the
to
Steelers.
Bill. He went to the Bills,
Bills,
didn't he?
Sorry, Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, it was one of them, and I knew it was weird. It was just an odd. I think wasn't he? He was linked with the Niners, wasn't he? Potentially to
Yeah, he
go
was linked to go and
join his
join his
brother,
younger brother.
Yeah.
but instead he's decided to go from sunny California to the coldest
The
place on earth.
the literal opposite of California. Um, I think things like that though, how much is it an actual link to the 49ers and how much is it people just going, oh, go on, his brother's just there.
It's probably the link was probably more so the fact that it's literally down the road,
Yeah,
and his brother's there.
yeah. Um,
Well, I think he was also probably concerned if he walked in the 49ers building, they'd probably move him out again because they pretty much sold off everything that was in the building anyway.
yeah.
Well, that was it. That's one of the weirdest things I think for this year is the fact that the Niners have let go about is it like 10 players and have signed
That.
DeMarcus Robinson.
Um, just a couple for me is just that it was some of them as well that happened that you have no idea are going to happen. So getting a notification saying Geno Smith's headed to Las Vegas. What? When was that a thing? And then JJ McCarthy is in Seattle. No, I did it again. Bloody JJ McCarthy. Sam Darnold
Sam
is in
Darnold.
Seattle. Yeah, you've got like that happened.
Tampering.
That threw me off.
Justin Fields going to the Jets is an
Yeah, that
odd
was a
one.
bit of a weird one. There have been some fun ones. Some genuinely fun ones. Lions cutting Zadarius Smith was a weird one to see pop up there. That I didn't understand that one quite. Um, but it is what it is, and there's going to be plenty more to go. With that in mind, we'll get properly started. We've got some news. Nick, I believe you've got us a fair bit of news in college football this week.
I have. We'll start with something light. Nick Saban last year drew 3 complaints that were filed with the FCC. All 3 complaints were for the use of profanity. Nick Saban swearing on live TV. So 3 people complained apparently. So and they went back and they looked, and apparently on all 3 instances it was during live conversation, and when he swears, everyone
Yeah,
else just laughs at him.
yeah. Well, there was a couple that those ones, especially the first couple of times, they made quite viral clips on social
Yeah.
media, weren't they? Just like Nick Saban swore, and
Well,
it was just I don't know if it was just more shocking that it was Nick Saban or maybe Pat McAfee's rubbing off too much on him. Don't know.
he
Uh,
drew 3 complaints for the FCC. So right, moving on. Uh, Penn State have approved a 15-year sponsorship contract from West Shore Home for the field naming rights at Beaver Stadium. It will be known as the West Shore Field at Beaver Stadium. The deal is front loaded, and that will help finance stadium renovations.
Yep.
So, do you remember when Newcastle United did that? And it was the Sports Direct
SportsDirect.com.
stadium at St James's Park.
No,
Yeah.
it was just they just changed it to sportsdirect.com
Yeah.
stadium. such a soulless way of adding the name or changing the name in the stadium.
What else have I got? Former Michigan State head coach Mark D'Antonio is to join the College Football Playoff Committee for 2025. He
But we're
has
out of it
commit
then. It was nice for
he's
that last
made a
us.
1 year commitment to replace Gary Pinkel, who's had to step away for undisclosed reasons.
Well, that changes a
You
lot of our later conversation for me then.
There you go. UNC and head coach Bill Belichick have made an offer to Devin Fitzgerald, son of Cardinals legend Larry Fitzgerald. So he's got a 2026 offer for UNC. Bowling Green have signed Eddie George to be their head coach. He spent the last 4 years as head coach at Tennessee State. He is a former Heisman winner in what year? What year
Well, I
did Eddie
shouldn't know
George
this.
win the Heisman?
I was gonna throw out 94.
Close, but no cigar. 95.
93. Oh.
As Ken Bruce would shout, 1 year out. Finally, I have got West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez has banned his players from dancing in TikTok videos. He is happy for listen to this. He is happy for his players to go on TikTok, but he does not want them dancing. He wants tough players, and tough players don't dance on TikTok. So
Okay.
Somebody tell that to The Rock because he dances on TikTok.
So he's basically said, look, I know you're gonna go on TikTok. Go on TikTok, just don't dance. So fair play to him.
Have you seen what else he said though? He put, "I'm allowed to do that. I can have the rule. I can have rules. 20 years from now, if they want to be sitting in their pajamas in the basement eating Cheerios and watching TikTok or whatever the hell, they can go at it. Smoke
Yeah.
cannabis, whatever. Knock yourself out."
Also not sure if tell The Rock, but I'm not sure how much NCAA eligibility he's got left to go play for West Virginia, so he might be in the clear anyway.
Well, there's another question. Which NCAA, which college team did The Rock play for? Where did he
I don't remember
go?
which college he was at. I want to say Oregon.
Nope.
I want to say Oregon.
Other end of the country. Complete opposite.
Oh, one of
Florida.
the Floridas.
In one of the Florida teams, yeah.
Gators.
Miami.
Miami. He was
Right, no,
because he went the same year that Michael. He was the year below Michael Irvin, I think, or 2 years below Michael Irvin. There you go. You learn something new every day.
You do.
Not that you're going to do anything with that information, but you've learned it anyway.
One day I'm going to be sat in a pub quiz, and there's going to be like they're going to say, "I'll throw this in there because no one will get that." Dwayne the Rock Johnson played college football. Which college did he play for? And I'm going to go, "This is my fucking time here. This is my time." Is that it for news on your side, or you got anything else?
That's it. That's all the news I've got, I'm afraid.
No
I've got
worries.
one bit of news,
Yep.
which I'll go back and find because I was reading it and then closed it for some stupid reason.
While you find that, just real quick, pro days coming up for college teams over the last couple of days. At the point of recording, this is the 12th of March. So we've had Georgia Southern, we've had Washington, we've had Western Michigan, Central Michigan, University of Kentucky, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Today is Georgia and Rutgers and Tulsa. I can't remember that logo off the top of my head. Which one's the one with the It's one of the Texas ones, riding the bull, the silhouette of a man riding a bull. I can't remember off the top of my head which college it is. I need to get better at my logos. Either way,
Houston, is it Houston College.
I don't think so. It's definitely not the Aggies. I know that one.
No, it's
Um,
not them.
but tomorrow we've got Georgia State. No, it's Buffalo. We've got Buffalo, Clemson, uh, Eastern Michigan, then upcoming as well, we've got Georgia Tech, Arkansas, NIU, Sam Houston, UCLA, the Big 12 pro days between the 18th and 21st. Got Northwestern and Oregon on the 18th, as well as South Carolina. The mighty Akron Zips will host theirs on the 19th of March, as well as Alabama. Uh, Kent State Golden Flashes, the winless Kent State Golden Flashes. Um, Minnesota, also on the 19th. On the 20th, we've got Cal, um, Mississippi Tech, Florida State on the 21st, as well as Michigan on the 21st, and Mizzou. Um, and finally, my only other piece is this weekend we had a couple of the spring games, so they have started. I know Hawaii was one. I mentioned them last week. I can't remember who. I can't find the results for them anywhere anyway. Um, and that doesn't really matter what the results were. But spring football is officially here. For those of us who care, those of us with colleges who care about the fans and whatnot, not like Sam in Texas. Joking.
No, we care about trying to win things.
Could you not have cared that much when you played Ohio State?
Yeah, but we've
That
got
would
to
have
go
been nice.
again. We're going to try and go again, whereas you're
No.
just going to sit back and, oh, well, we'll play for the fans.
Yeah, listen. We'll get into this. We'll get into this later on because I have retorts. Have you got the news that you were looking for?
Yeah, it was just the All-American defensive back and member of USC's 1967 national championship team, who played for the Jets, Mike Battle, has died at the age of 78. He led a USC defense that allowed only 87 points all season, and the
Wow,
Trojans were 26-6-1 and won 3 conference titles during his 3-year career.
bloody hell. Dominance, pure dominance. Um, there was something else I think I wanted to bring to the table before it's gone out my head. Nick, you brought us today's topic. Do you want to run us through it?
Yeah. So I was thinking about the college playoff saw um that we saw at the end of the year and how two of us had teams in that college playoff. Um, and I was thinking about of the 12 teams that were in the college playoff, how many are likely to make it back again? And so I broke it down and I started looking at starting with Ohio State that won and then moving down to the losing finalists, the losing semi-finalists, and the losing quarterfinalists. And I just thought it might be interesting to go through those teams and, which teams do we believe are going to make it back for another attempt, or in Ohio's case to, retain their title. So because it's been for the last few weeks we've been doing a lot of draft stuff and what have you, and there hasn't
Yeah.
really been any games going on. So I thought it might be interesting to sort of bring it back to as like a transition from you say about the new NFL league year this year, a
Yeah.
transition from last season into this season. And I mean, we can always maybe, in another week we can look at those teams that didn't make it the
Yeah.
teams that weren't in the college playoff, which one of those do we think will make it? You know, like yourself, change your background, living on past glories. You know, you can maybe put Michigan in the list of teams that might make it back.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
just thought when we were talking about teams that went and played, I'm like,
Yeah,
congratulations on your participation trophy. We've got an actual one.
yeah.
Uh,
You
yeah,
mean something that happened 2 years ago and you're still living off that glory, are we? After that
yes,
atrocious season.
yes,
Bearing in mind we beat you two
yeah,
games after that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, get your Blue Peter badge, have a biscuit, do all that sort of stuff. We'll keep looking at the rings and the trophy, because
At least
it's
one team in Michigan can get to a natty. Or get to a championship final, should I say.
yeah. We'll see in March Madness. Anyway, so do you want to go through? Shall we go through from top to bottom? From
Yeah, that's
number one
that's the way
seed.
I did it. That's the way I looked at it.
Um,
So starting with Ohio State as the champions.
right,
You
okay.
know, why do we think Ohio State are going to make it back? What if so? Why? You know, a few minutes on each team. That was all I
Yeah,
was.
that's what. Oh yeah. So I'll sadly start on this one and say yes. I think they'll be back. I, Ohio State. I don't think they've lost enough, or they've at least got enough in the building continues to again have another 10-win season. And if I get, I'll get the actual schedule up in a second because I haven't put our sheet together for the schedules. Um, just quite yet. But Ohio State are coming away with at least a 10-win season. That's just who they are. That's what they do. Um, that will be more than enough to get a Big Ten team into the playoffs. I don't see any.
Yeah.
I don't see
I
anything
mean,
less.
I had down that you could argue, it is arguably, they probably have the best two players in college football right now in Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. You
Yeah,
know, yes, they need to decide who their number one QB is, but they've got a very talented roster. They have a very talented roster every year. They've lost 15 players to the NFL draft, but
yeah,
they've been they always recruit very well every year, and their worst college football playoff ranking in the last 11 years is seventh. So I think it's almost certain Ohio State will be back in the playoffs again this year to defend their title.
I mean, I'm looking at their games, and
yeah.
Michigan obviously is their trump game. They always seem to struggle against you lot.
And they're at the big
Um,
house this year as well.
Penn State will be another really difficult game, and us opening game of the season are the three I think where they could drop points or drop
Yeah,
games. The others I think are all pretty much winnable. You would think for someone of their ability.
yeah,
I think it'll just depend for me. I mean, I don't see them not making the playoffs again, but for me, it'll just depend on how well they do in sorting out a few positions. I mean, I don't know what their running back core is like, but they've just lost their two best running backs for a start. So they'll need to replace them or at least promote one of the guys that's in the room at the moment. Um, Obviously, they have Jeremiah Smith, but if you haven't got a quarterback who can't throw to him, then it doesn't really matter. So they need to make sure they sort that out. But I mean, they lost, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18 players to the draft, which is quite a lot. So we'll see.
yeah. I see. You don't just lose players to the draft as well. They'll be losing more players as well to just leaving college. They're players that just go up, but lose players in the transfer portal. But like you say, they recruit well. The
Hmm.
recruiting class that'll be coming in, the next guys up. It's just par for the course. Ohio State, sadly. Look, yeah, as you said there, you start the season at home against Texas. with losing so many key starting pieces and with having the questions around the quarterback, you kind of, I'm going to try and come at this from as much of an unbiased position as possible, but I know all too well how going into week one, not knowing necessarily who your quarterback's going to be and still having questions over the quarterback, how that can stop you from appropriately preparing for a season and going into it. If you have those questions going into a game against the Texas team who will want, like, Sark is going to go into that thinking of some revenge, week one or not. Sark is not going to treat that like a let's just get our foot into it, let's just get warm and start the season well. That's a damn tough game to start off with week one. That I I don't know which way that game would go. I would err on the side of Texas. So there you are, Sam. I'm being nice to you right now. Um, but no, I would
Makes
err
a
on the side
change.
of someone like Texas in a game like that. But you just never know. It's a coin flip. Grambling State, I mean, that's another really tough one for Ohio State, but I'll have them edge in that one. Ohio Bobcats, again, everything else seems pretty routine for them. You've got a bye, then you've got at Washington. Don't see them having much trouble. Minnesota, no trouble. Illinois, well, they were lovely this year. Don't see them repeating the same thing again. The return rate and how much they've retained this year has been not very good. At Wisconsin, yeah, maybe a bit better this year. I don't know. Penn State, they say tough game, they'll take it. At Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and then an obvious loss at the big house for them. You won't go any lower than 9-3, and I don't see 9-3. That's 10-2.
Yeah.
Start and end with a loss. That 10-2 gets a Big Ten team in. And if Michigan are as improved as they should be this year, and Texas are a gunning again for an SEC title and playoff run, those aren't going to count against you very much, especially a week one loss to Texas. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but you, Nick,
I mean, I can't see them finishing any worse than 10-2, really. I think, you know.
I
um,
think there's one or two. Yeah, it's one or two games that they'll lose maximum. I think three at a push.
and it's the worst stretch. What's the worst stretch they've got? They've not got a
They
horrible
don't have a bad
stretch of
stretch. It's
games.
singular games.
Um,
That's what they have.
They've got, I think the worst stretch you could call is between the two bye weeks where you've got three road games, you're traveling, and one of those is traveling onto the East Coast, West Coast even, to go and face Washington.
Mm.
Don't see that, like I say, I don't see that being overly too much of a problem. But your next two, you're back straight back at home, and then your next two games are at Illinois and Wisconsin. Those aren't exactly horrible travels. Those aren't
Mm.
big. They're not gonna mess with you with you very much. And the only thing that could I guess take those, do they cause you a problem, is either if Illinois or Wisconsin are surprising this season and are a lot better than anyone thinks they should be. There are always teams like that in college football every year. We don't see them being good, and they're really good. But it's not it's not a difficult stretch. You're just on the road 3 out of the 4 games, and you have a bye either side of it. So yeah, that
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that Ohio State will be back.
Yes,
yeah,
Are we all in agreement?
yeah.
yeah. But again, not undeserved because they'll lose the game and they won't touch a Big Ten championship. So it's not a real playoff run again.
Okay. Right. Um, College football playoff national championship runner up, the mighty Fighting Irish. What do we think?
You lost 10 in the draft, didn't you?
Uh, Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
mean,
you lost your
uh,
quarterback, you lost your cornerback in
yeah, we lost. Thing,
safety.
the thing with I looked at it is we were Benjamin Morrison was our top corner. He was missing since game 5, so we didn't have pretty much missed him all year. Xavier Watts is the one that played all year. You know, Jack Kaiser we missed at the end of the season. He got injured at the end of the season. Um, Riley Mills got injured in the playoffs.
Mhm.
You know, um, the roster that's you know Jeremiah Love is probably for me now right now probably one of the best running backs in college football. Um, you know,
Is that
he
is that just because of all the ones that have left?
that's because of all the ones that have left. Yeah. Hey, it is what it is, isn't it? At some point, if everyone else leaves, you will be out. You just keep moving up the list. Um, you know, the defense. I think our defense and our rushing attack, which is what got us through this whole season, that still remains strong. That's what drove us to the all the way to the final. We've got I think we've got better offensive weapons this year as well because while Riley Leonard was good on the ground, he wasn't great at throwing the ball, and he didn't have great choices at wide receiver. But you know, I think um, you know when last season started, the entire team only had 6 games worth of experience, and now you look, and we've had an entire season and playoff run. And although you've lost some players, everybody's a bit more experienced, and you know, I think being an independent and being um, probably the top independent team, I think it's safe to say I would be very surprised if Notre Dame are not back. We kick off what Miami away at Hard Rock, Texas A&M at home. Now we beat Texas A&M opening game of the season away this last year, so at home, second game of the season, I would like to think we can repeat that. Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, Southern Cal, Boston College, Navy, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Stanford. So, you know, Boston College is possibly one that you need to be aware of. Boise State, we'll get onto them later. I don't think they're going to be half as good as they were.
No,
Um, I don't think Miami are going to be half as good as they were. So really, for me, it's the Boston College game and the Texas A&M game you just need to be aware of. There is a good chance that, certainly I would expect us to go hopefully 10-3.
10-3, maybe 10-2.
yeah,
10 and
ten and
2,
two.
sorry.
So I don't not to be pedantic. It just played with my head. Then I'm looking for things that aren't there.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry. Apologies.
I'm like, are we counting the spring game you don't play in conference champion? No, anyway, no.
Oh,
Miami,
if we can't in the spring game, we'll go 11-2 then.
but 11-3 because you have to add both. Yeah. See, Miami at Hard Rock. That's got to watch out for that one. A&M. I don't count A&M out this year.
No, I'm not. I think that
No.
that game worries me. That game at home against A&M worries me more than Miami away.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't see any. There's nothing over. And I've made my thought clear on Marcus Freeman. How I think he's a fantastic coach, and
I think he's hugely talented.
um, He's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. So I don't see too many issues. And if we're gonna have a there's a couple of those games that I think you're gonna have to win relatively comfortably because again, what you got to think with um Notre Dame is there's no you've got to go for some of the at large. You've got the at large bids for the college football playoffs for the invitation, and they some of them. I mean, if you continue to be anti-American and just beat down on Navy again, that's a thing. They'll obviously that'll work in your favor. A couple of those teams I'd expect you to somewhat beat them down. Um, whether it's I don't know, I'd maybe expect you to give a little bit of a beat down to NC State. I'd expect games like Purdue to be comfortable wins. There are a couple of wins there that I'd really expect to see comfortable as well in order to give the credence because that's not a an overly difficult schedule. There's a lot of teams with a lot worse schedules out there, and I don't want that to kind of count against you when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't see any issue with Notre Dame getting one of those at large because you think what five of the bids are automatic. You got seven at large bids at the moment.
It's like you look, we've got Purdue at home. Well, last year last year we played Purdue away and we won 66-7. You know, we've got we've got Stanford away.
Yeah,
Well, last year we had them at home and we won where is it? Where is it? Where is it? 49-7.
yeah,
So, you know, there are there are some games in there that we played last year, Southern Cal as well. So, I would think, providing you don't have any Northern Illinois moments,
yeah. Where's the banana skin? Where's the banana skin in there? Arkansas, NC State,
um,
Stanford. I mean, like, there's got a bit. Every team has a banana skin.
away in Pittsburgh, possibly,
So I'm
away
thinking,
at Boston College.
and there's another thing as well. I think for me is you got away a little bit last year to an extent with the NIU game happening when it did. That's later in
Yeah.
the season. I think it weighs on people more. I still think you get in, you just have a lower seed in
Well, we
thingy.
had we were seeded 7, and that was the highest we could be seeded.
Yeah.
Is that right? No, we're 5. 5. We were seeded 5. That's the highest we could be seeded.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
couldn't get we couldn't get seeded any higher because we weren't a conference
Yeah, because you don't get
a
one of the
winner.
automatic bids.
You know. But we said, yeah, I think if that Northern Illinois had happened later in the season, that might have had something a lot more to it.
Yeah,
But nevertheless, the fact that it was second game in, we had to go on a run that
yeah, yeah.
there was no kidding it. There was no room for error. It was you know win or go home from that point forward.
Yeah, yeah. I just like I said, that my only thing is banana skin games happening. I say if that banana skin happens and you still go 11-1, every other score remains the same. You just put the game against USC or the game against
Syrac-
Stanford a few weeks
Syracuse could
where
be an interesting game.
with NIU and put the NIU game there. It's a lot fresher when it goes to putting that picture together, and it hurts the bid. But I don't. Again, I absolutely love Marcus Freeman. I think he's brilliant, and I think everything he's been doing so far and anything he's going to continue to do just gets better every year. I don't see any reason why Notre Dame can't be in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
So there's two that we see that are probably going to come back.
Losing semi-finalists, Texas. Sam, start us off.
Um, I mean, obviously we've lost quite a few players, some quite a few important players. I think we probably out of the teams in the four, I suppose like this, the four semi-finalists from last year. I think we have arguably the harder set of games as a grouping. So not like so like obviously we've got to play Ohio State, we've got to play Georgia, we've
Yeah.
got to play Texas A&M. They're going to be another difficult game. Oklahoma is always a difficult game, and we've got Florida Gators, who I think are going to be pretty good this year as well. So I
Yeah.
think we have a lot more games where we could potentially slip up. But I also think that we're good enough, especially with we've sorted out our quarterback sorted. I think he's obviously. I think arguably is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football potentially. So we've only seen very little of him so far. We obviously have got our running back CJ back to come back. It just depends on again what we do in free agency and or in the portal, should I say, and how well these young players come through and play. So it'll be an interesting one. I don't really quite know at this stage. I would like to think we'll make it back. I think we have enough within our sort of, with Sarkisian and everything there, and with, like I say, arguably the best quarterback in the league. It just depends on what we do in the portal and the college players that come through.
I had I had you down with a huge number of your defensive talent are returning. You've got Manning at QB1. You were rated number 6 in the recruiting class of this year. Um, your new receiving room looks quite exciting. Pace and ability to stretch the field. And to be honest, I think you're favourites. I think if you get out of if argument's sake you lose to Ohio State, if you put a Notre Dame run together and you get all the way down to those last two games of the season, you've just got to hope that maybe you split the pins and maybe get one win at the end on those last two games. So, but
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna just double down here and say I agree completely with what Nick has just said. Um, your where do you want to not? Thank you very much there on three. Um, the defensive side of the ball going to be absolutely solid. I don't see any issue with where you're going to be on the defensive side of the ball. With a lot of that talent that is coming back, with all that sort of stuff that's going, and the way Sark's going to have it, you're going to be absolutely fine. Don't see any issues there. Your national rank, wait, that's for 2026. But crying out loud, I just want 2025. Why will no one give me that? Um, as per on three, yeah, you are number one nationally ranked for recruitment. Um, you the number of 5 stars you've got coming in is nuts in comparison to other colleges. I mean, you've got four piss easy games to start the season. Bunch of absolute nobodies. You basically got your four Appalachian states to go up against to start the season at Ohio State, San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. None of them are going to be a problem. You will brush past all of them. Yeah, Florida Gators are going to be a lot tougher this year. A lot tougher. They finally got it going. I mean,
I
who
think
they?
it's the placement of that game as well as not helpful right before the Red River Run.
Yeah, I mean, but didn't wasn't it the same last year? Didn't you have Texas
Yeah,
last year right before?
we had the Georgia game right before.
That was it.
No, we had the did we have the Red River
And
before
they have
Georgia?
you both have a bye before that week as well. So it's nice seeing Texas coming off a bye, so are Florida. However,
Yeah,
they're coming off a bye after playing Miami at Hard Rock. Like that, they've had an hour, like they've had a couple of hours on a bus, and then they're back home. Then for a bye week. Whereas you've got Sam Houston State, well, Sam Houston the week before. Um, that's, I mean, they're starting the season off LIU, USF, LS at LSU. That's a tough one at Miami. They've got a couple of tough games. I was gonna say this might be a game where you could go and get that the MacGuffin back, but they'll probably have lost it by then. I'm gonna guess. Um, I mean, there's that, but yeah, it starts to get a lot tougher. That schedule does get a lot tougher after that first bye week at Florida, Red River, at Kentucky. We saw what they did to Georgia last year. They're not that SEC teams don't bow down, and I will play some of that whole SEC. It is just harder to win in the SEC a lot of the time. It is the tougher conference. Mississippi State, yeah, the less heard about that one, the better.
Take your
Vandy,
own goal.
like,
Make sure you take your own goalposts.
yeah, Vandy.
well, we've already beaten them. We didn't
That's at
need to
home.
worry about that.
Vandy are at home, so don't worry about the goalposts. But Vandy players, watch out for those plastic bear cups when decisions don't go Texas's way. Um, then you've got the bye week. Then you're at Georgia, Arkansas, Texas. A. I think you've got a real case there for running the SEC back.
Yeah.
Okay, I genuinely think you've got a real case for running back to the SEC championship, and this time taking the SEC championship.
Trying to look at who we've thing. But yeah,
Because
I mean,
like
I'm probably just trying to be a bit more coy about it. I've had
it's
years
not like
of
you.
well, we'll wait until the season starts.
Well, yeah, that's true. But see, defensively, I don't think you've got any worse. In fact, you could potentially be better. I'm not being. You get to start the season off with that whole. You get to go in and punch someone in the face who's just who the last
Yeah.
your last memory is being hurt by them and them keeping you out with the national champ. I think Sark's going to have everybody well up for that game.
Hmm.
Um, and then offensive side of the ball, you are better at the premium, far better at the premium position on the field.
Yeah. I suppose it just depends on how our O line's going to look as well. I think that's going to be the big one for me because obviously we did lose four four potential spots on that. So I'm sure the guys that come in. I mean, we had a few that came in and did really well, so we may be
Yeah.
okay there. But yeah, I think, like I say, it's probably not going to be too much of an issue. But I never want to be like, oh, we're going to win everything, and then we end up flopping the bed. So like Florida did.
Um, yeah, I don't see just for my own thing to kind of wrap up on that. So I can't conceive a world so far where any of these three aren't in the playoffs next year. Like
Mm.
it isn't a thought that's going to cross my mind. Well, a reasonable thought that's going to cross my mind anyway.
Yeah.
And I do think Texas, by the way, again, just to kind of reiterate a point as well. I think Texas have a bye week because I think they win the SEC.
Like I say
Okay.
I've got them down. I think they're favourites. I genuinely think Texas are favourites for
They're
for
in the
the
best
national
position to do
championship
so.
next year.
I would
So
agree with you there.
moving on.
Penn.
Penn State. Um, Obviously, one thing they have done is if you can't beat them, go and raid them and pay lots of money and nick their defensive coordinator so that they have to get Matt Patricia. Um, Jim Knowles is now the DC at Penn State. Um,
Chestnut
they
checkers.
have they have got a loaded roster coming back. A
Yeah.
lot of their players are returning. For me, Drew Allar is probably one of the top five QBs in college football this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole roster's got another, like I was saying with Notre Dame, you've got a whole year of experience where because you've got so many players returning. Um, and I would say they have to certainly be up there as one of the favourites for the Big Ten. They may not be the favourite, but they're certainly in and around the conversation. You know,
Yeah.
I really think they could repeat what they did this year and go again. You know, you
I
look
mean,
at their schedule.
their schedule's insane. Like the first three games are basically just straight up wins,
Yeah.
and then they play
I mean, they've got
Oregon.
Oregon, and then later
At
on in the
home.
season they've got a run. They've got a run where they have to play Ohio State and then Indiana.
Yeah,
And
and
But
then
other than that, you know, you would think again, you're probably talking 9 wins. 9 wins.
that's
yeah, I
10
would
wins.
say
That's
probably
10 wins.
nine,
10.
9 or 10 wins.
1, 2, 3,
Nevada
four,
win.
five, 6, 7, 8. There's at least 9 there, depending on how you view the Indiana game.
So
Because
I'll
I'm
go.
assuming you lose to Ohio and Oregon.
I don't. So I'm gonna go Nevada win, FIU win, Villanova win. Nice little bye week. Just the one thing I will check on it, even though I don't think it matters that much. Nope, they don't. Um, you got a bye week, and then you go against Oregon, who don't have a bye week and have to travel all the way to Pennsylvania from Oregon on the West Coast. I think that's a win. So you start 4-0 at UCLA, 5-0 Northwestern, that's 6. At Iowa, that's 7. Then you've got a bye week at Ohio State. Okay, now you're 7-1. Indiana, I don't think, again, I said before, I don't think they're anything close to what they were this year. I don't think they're bad. I think they're bowl eligible level 6, like 7-6, maybe 8-4. I need to go through properly and look at the schedule, but I don't think Indiana are what they were this year. They don't go on the run that they do. So there's a win for them. 8-1. Michigan State Spartans, absolute disgusting. Um, they'll kick their ass. There's 9-1. Nebraska is
That
where
could
I
be an
think
interesting game. I think they could be really good this year.
I would say Nebraska is where I think they could get their second a potential second loss from. I don't think Oregon will. I don't think they're going to exactly like blow Oregon out the water. What they're going to do this year is going to be really good still. Um, I don't think Dan Lanning's exactly going to. They're not going to regress much, but they will regress slightly in comparison. Nebraska, Dylan Raiola really, really, really interests me. In year two, Dylan Raiola really interests me. I don't care.
You jumping on my Dylan Raiola train?
Absolutely. I like him last year. I think he's gonna. I don't know. Maybe now Mahomes has lost the Super Bowl, he can go and form his own personality. He realizes he doesn't have to do that. But they're going to be really fun this year. Really interesting to see. That could be the second loss. A win at Rutgers. So I think 11-1, 10-2. But those two losses are going to come from Ohio State and Nebraska. The only thing that could let them down is if they lose at home to Nebraska, second to last game. I don't. Again, they get in the playoffs, but maybe they just miss out on the the Big Ten championship, or maybe that just drops them a couple of positions in the rankings because of a very very recent loss.
I wouldn't sleep on Indiana. I really don't. They the, this last year was not a one-off. I genuinely, I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters, but I think sleep on Indiana at your peril.
Is that a threat?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. Just so I know. Um,
Yeah.
no, that's fair. I mean, we don't know until the season happens, and
No,
um
So that's, I mean, bearing in mind, we all thought the Florida Seminoles were not going to be as bad as they were, and look how that turned out.
yeah, every
I
time.
think we know it. I think we knew what was going to happen when we saw them.
Yeah, I try it. Yeah, that is going to be the ultimate one in even like 3 years when we're in an episode. See, I don't think. Yeah, but that year you thought Florida State were going to be good, and look at them. You can be so wrong. Um, but no, again, Penn State top four so far. I don't see any issue with any of them running it back. Not a single one, and I think I would run them back for another Big Ten championship as well. Given that it's a 12-team playoff, I don't see any issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, Penn State didn't lose, like you already mentioned, they didn't lose too many. They lost probably their big ones were obviously Abdul Carter
Yeah.
being one of them, and Tyler Warren, um, and a few others that they've with Kevin Winston, Jalen Reed. I mean, like you say, they kept a lot of their roster back this year, so they're going to be up in and around, aren't they? Realistically,
Yeah. Who else have we got? This is the round now where we're talking all the bye week teams are in and out.
Oregon, Oregon
Oregon.
Ducks. Um, you know, they're going to be there or thereabouts, I would think. They Dan, is it Dan Lashing?
Lanning. Lanning.
Yeah, Lanning. He has them. He has them playing sound, fundamentally decent football. You know, um, I think I think they played a blinder in bringing Dante Moore in last year and just making him sit behind Dylan Gabriel all year and just get acclimatized and get
Yeah.
comfortable and learn. Again, like Texas, like excuse me, like Texas, like Georgia, like Ohio State, great recruiting class. I think I don't think they're gonna go 10-0 and be miles out in front and then lose a game. I think it could be a bit more difficult for them this year. But again, I think they'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
again, they're I don't think that their schedule's too bad. Like they start off against um Montana State, then it's Oklahoma State, then it's Northern University, then Oregon State, then obviously Penn State and uh, Indiana, and then it's Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, USC, and Washington. So
I-
again, I think there's maybe a couple of games in there. The Penn State game, maybe Indiana, but realistically, apart from those two games, I think that they should probably be winning all of those games.
They've got
Yeah.
going into 2025, they've got the fourth ranked nationally recruitment class. Uh, Best recruitment class in the Big Ten. They've got three. This is per ON3, by the way. Um, they've got three five-star recruits coming in, including Dakarian Moore, the wide receiver, Naeem Offord, the corner, and Trey McNuff, who I've heard nothing but incredible things about. Absolutely incredible. The other two, I mean, I've heard things about Dakarian Moore. I've heard a little bit about Naeem Offord. High school recruiting is my biggest weak point, obviously. As most of us will have it in the UK, this will definitely be our weak point. But Trey McNuff, I've heard damn good things about on a number of kids. Like they've a very, very good recruiting class for this year. Again, I don't see any issue with them being back. I don't see them being as good this year though. I just don't see it. I don't know if it's just there teams in the Big Ten who are getting better, and not enough teams in the Big Ten are getting worse or worse enough that. But that it's not a horrible schedule either. It's not a horrible schedule.
Yeah.
What's
No,
the
I think that middle period, Oregon State, Penn State, Indiana, that's probably your hardest run.
at Penn State? I'm going to throw it out there. At Penn State is the most difficult game of the season. Yeah, are we happy with that? Like
Yeah,
on the road to a team that we've just said is going to comfortably probably make it back into the playoffs. Indiana, you and I obviously are on both two different sides of the coin on how they're going to be in
yeah.
comparison to last season. You think they're going to be absolutely fine, so I think we could throw a bit of a 50-50 at them. Who else stands out on the page though is I think you just get a lot of routine wins in there. USC, I actually like to think that USC might be a bit better this year. I know they've had a good recruiting class. I know they've had a decent portal as well. I think
15th in recruiting.
where are they in the? Is that where in comparison to the Big Ten? Uh,
Um,
Again, I'm using on three here, so depending on what you
Big
well,
Ten, they rank fifth.
fifth, yeah. So you using on three as well.
Yeah.
Um, like that's I like I see there's something about USC that I see being better again this year. That'll be a tougher one, but that's at home at Washington. We'll see how they do. It's not an overly difficult schedule. You've just got. I do think though that Oregon State, Penn State, Indiana, at Rutgers. I mean, not even necessarily the at Rutgers though. It's not a pretty stretch. It's not a pretty stretch.
The other thing is you know, it only takes, and we all know this, it only takes one or two key injuries in the wrong time, and it was anybody, whether you're Ohio State or whether you're the SMU Mustangs, you know, you couple of key injuries at the wrong time, and you can be really up the creek. So, but I think that's five teams down, and we believe all five teams will be back. Right? Okay.
So
Oh,
who's next? Who's
Georgia,
next?
the Georgia
Yeah, they'll make
Bulldogs.
it again. They'll make it
Uh,
again.
uh,
I mean,
um,
they have the second highest recruit in the SEC with 4 5 stars as well. And they have the most. They recruited 28, which is a lot. Um, I'm not sure what their schedule is, but I'm going to assume, like ours, it's probably going to be pretty good.
I'll give you in a second. They have finished ninth or better in the college football playoff rankings in the last 8 years. Um, top three recruiting class for 9 straight years. And their schedule is
Marshall,
Austin P, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, um,
Smith
Mississippi
State.
State, Texas, Charlotte, and Georgia Tech.
They've also got Marshall as well, very first game.
Yes.
Marshall.
So you've got two very much easy wins. A Tennessee game which they should win, but obviously we're going to be talking about them in a bit. Alabama's going to be a difficult game, and then you've got Kentucky and Auburn, and they should win those. Ole Miss could be an interesting game. Florida could be an interesting game. They should beat MS State. Obviously, will beat Georgia finally. Um, Charlotte they should win, and then Georgia Tech they should win. So
I think taking out Auburn, I think that's where Georgia will win or lose. Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Auburn, and Ole Miss. You take out Auburn, and that's that early run. That's probably where they're going to make or break their season.
I don't. I think Auburn should remain in that.
yeah, Auburn I had a very good recruitment, very good
Yeah,
recruitment.
fair enough.
And
But
obviously,
still
the
makes the
SEC.
point. It's
They should beat Auburn, but Auburn
yeah.
won't be an easy game. But they
No,
should
But
beat.
that's 5 games in a row when you've got, you know, they need to be switched on because that will be
Mm.
where it will be won or lost possibly.
yeah.
Especially
And
when you think that they've got Texas to come and Georgia State on rivalry week to come as
Mm.
well. They can't come out of that five win 5 team run. Having lost more than one.
the yeah, it that is a damn tough schedule.
Yeah,
I just think it's a damn tough schedule, and obviously you never. There are things you just learn in life, and one of those things in college football is never tell Georgia no. Like they will be there. They will not like Georgia or
we
Georgia. They will be there.
we
But
tried to tell them no twice and lost.
yeah, just you can't count Georgia out on any
You've got
given
to tell them the right
anything.
way. We
Um,
did. Oh,
but obviously you can't. You just can't count Georgia out. At least in the regular season. There, obviously,
Mm.
some of us have different experiences in postseason with them. Um, but in the regular season, but that is a damn tough schedule. And again, I throw Auburn in there, especially given that that's on the road. We don't
Mm.
know what Kalen DeBoer's derailed my Alabama team. Won 9 games out of 12 last year. They're going to be better this year. And they have arguably possibly the second. They also had a true freshman wide receiver this year who was just unreal. Um, who will only get better. I am not the biggest Jalen Milroe fan. I think they can get better at quarterback. I'm very interested into what a year two Kalen DeBoer Alabama looks like. Now you've got um the initial Saban shock. That's a gauntlet. That is an absolute gauntlet from Tennessee to Texas. That is a gauntlet. And any country music artist who wants to name a song from Tennessee to Texas, potentially with the line after it, that is a gauntlet. You can contact me at Fletch at AAWnetwork.co.uk and we will sort out some sort of financial compensation and you can have it.
hey, it's C2C this weekend. You might, all the stars are over here,
Yes. Oh,
country to
no, no,
country.
I know. I've
He's just done a
unfortunately,
blank face. I'm like, he doesn't know what
no,
It's
no,
just
C2C
because he
is.
doesn't.
I've
It's
heard
just
it.
because he doesn't like it.
No, I've unfortunately got myself wrangled up with a load of country folks recently and found out Sammy's also one of them. Um,
Yep.
but
Nothing wrong with country.
there's so much wrong with it. There's so
No,
much
there's
wrong with it.
not.
There's
Don't
so
be
much.
such a
When
hard
right,
ass.
let's not get into this right now.
He's still too busy living on his '90s hip hop
Best believe it. I was
nonsense.
listening to a Biggie all afternoon. Um, but that's a gauntlet. That is a gauntlet. That's horrible. Georgia will come away with at least 2 losses out of that.
Mm.
I'm calling that now. They come out with 2 losses there, at least. And we don't know. I think we don't know. Florida are gonna be dangerous this year. Genuinely dangerous. Ole Miss are Ole Miss. Auburn are Auburn. We saw what Kentucky did to them last season.
Mm.
Again, I've mentioned this before. We saw what Kentucky had done to them. Alabama, Tennessee. It, you are going into that final stretch.
I
Charlotte,
mean,
well, Yeah.
Old Miss this last year absolutely battered Georgia, and they only just scraped past Georgia Tech as well. You know,
And
so
yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a tougher year, but it doesn't matter because the SEC is a basketball conference now.
are you putting Georgia in the pile of teams to return or not to return? So they
I,
I
have
think
I, I
this,
five out of
personally,
five to return at the moment.
I personally see them being one of those teams that we've talked about before that probably shouldn't be there, but are.
the potential Alabama of this year.
Yeah, I just see them being, they get in on what feels like name more than
You're
what
in
they've
that
done.
bubble. You're in that bubble of you and about six other teams. You and three, four other teams could be in that spot. And if you get it, why did you get one of the like? Yeah, you're asking that question. Why you? Is it because you are Georgia and because you bring ratings? Um,
Yeah,
I'll say yes, they'll be in, and I'll say yes, they'll be in some mo on merit. But I also think with somewhat there with Sam that they'll be in that bubble of that final weekend when it comes to selection. It's going to be, do they get selected? Do they get the invite?
mm,
Probably yes, but there'll be that doubt in them this year.
I agree with that.
So 6 out of 6 so far, aren't we? For teams that they will make it.
Yeah. Who are we going for next, Nick?
Sorry, Chapman.
Um,
Still making it
Boise
though.
State.
Boise State, no.
No.
Um, that's fine.
I mean,
I've got what
well,
did I write?
No more
What did I
said.
write down for
I was
Boise
gonna say
State?
you had something on Boise State here, so
Um, I think this year they're going to be more balanced with no, they're not relying on Ashton Gentry, so they can look at being a bit more creative on the offensive side of the ball. They can throw, there's not the need to keep passing, keep handing it off. So I think Maddox is obviously got another year's worth of experience. He will probably have that better feel for passing the ball. He won't be under pressure to hand it off. The Mountain West isn't the deepest division in quality, so I think if Boise State win their division, it's whether somebody has a better record in that conference. Um, and what I do think is quite interesting is 4 out of their 5 offensive starting linemen are all coming back.
I that's helpful. But I'm going to throw out there they've got Air Force. They've also got Notre Dame, some Notre Dame,
Some
yeah, that one.
Irish, the Irish.
Yeah, something about the Irish. New Mexico, UNLV. I think UNLV are going to be a genuine force to be
That's
reckoned with
the
this
that's their
season.
big game into
That's,
UNLV
but
in
I think
division.
UNLV are going to be very, very good this year. Very good. I
Yeah,
think they could lead the push for a G5, G6 at large spot. Fresno, I backed them once 1 year ago, and a couple of Fresno State fans were really nice. So Fresno State are going to be a force to be reckoned with this year, as they always are. Um,
Raging Cajuns.
Obviously the Raging Cajuns can't
I know they're in
not
the
shout.
Sun Belt, but
Um, and they're also not on the schedule for Boise State, but we can't not shout them out. Colorado State, Utah State. There's a couple of slip ups there. I think New Mexico could be a slip up. UNLV, um, USF. I don't know. They'll be a regress this year. They,
they've got their slack Division 2 team, Appalachian State.
get
they
in.
do. Um, I can see them losing 3 or 4 games this year. It's par for the course. Ashton Genty was a generational talent. You
I think
lose that.
the difficulty with this is that essentially you're looking at one spot, aren't you?
Yeah,
For all of the five,
Yeah.
realistically. So it's not like as if it's like a like how it feels like with the sec where they feel like they do have one spot and then potentially two or three others that they can definitely get. The five have one to share between them all. And I think there are teams that within that five that will be stronger than they will this year. Not necessarily within their division or their conference, sorry, but in one of the other conferences. I just think there's going to be a stronger team out there. Personally, I
Well,
think
it's
it's going to
you
be
know, I
very
don't
Kennesaw
intriguing.
State.
I don't think their division is not the deepest in quality, but like you said, you're then fighting the rest of the conference for that one spot, and it only takes one team to have one game better record than you, and you're in trouble. So, while yeah, they probably will win their division. That's probably as far as they go. Boise State are the first team that I look at from the player this year's playoffs and think they're not going to make it.
Yeah, no, don't have him. Um, obviously the genuine the right group of five teams here is your specific selection. Obviously, we know there's some at-large spots here that a G5 team could pick up. It's not realistic or not very likely that they do. You're not finding two G5 teams that high in the rankings. It's
When was the last time we had two G5 uh, teams in the
well,
top 12? That'd be an interesting if anyone
yeah.
wants to look that up.
Um, it's not so obviously, and that's obviously going to Kennesaw State. So like, it's just so there's your answer for your G5 edition. But no, like there's gonna be better schools this year in the G5 than Boise State. I'm not say it's not to say that they'll be bad. It's not to say that they'll be terrible. It's not to say that they won't make a bowl game. It's not to say that they won't have a decent record. But there will be better. There will be not much better, but there will be better. Um, and that's just the reality of being in the G5 and losing someone like Ashton Genty.
Yeah,
Tough.
who's next?
Arizona State, isn't it?
Arizona State.
Well, they've lost their Ashton Janty, haven't
They've got their schedule is um, Mississippi State, Northern Arizona, Texas State, Baylor, TCU, Utah, Texas Tech, Houston, Iowa State, West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona.
they? And going by the ON3, they ranked ninth out of the Big 12 in terms of recruitment this year, which is pretty poor.
You kind of want to
According,
learn. Sorry, go on, Nick.
I was going to say, according to PFF, Arizona State have the best QB wide receiver pairing in college football in 2025. They
Obviously,
have 10 out of 11 of their defensive starters are returning. They are better balanced. And if there's one thing you can guarantee is Arizona State will be a high energy. We will kick your ass if you don't turn up.
yeah, and one thing that can't be understated is the fairy tale.
Yeah.
Players want to play for the coach because he's a Arizona State boy through and through. I don't think that I would say yes, and or at least say that they will definitely be in with the running for the Big 12 championship. You've got a couple of teams like
Colorado.
I mean, right, I'm gonna go out on a limb with my really, really hot take for 2025. Colorado are going to be not as good this year. They've had the one year of
Probably.
being okay. They will take a serious dip. They've lost. Travis Hunter and Shadar Sanders. They're end of story.
Yeah.
And you've lost Shiloh Sanders. That no, well, no one cares about that bit. That's fine. But
Dad offered him a car.
eh,
If apparently if he runs a 4.8, his dad said he'll buy him a car. I'll buy him a new car.
fair enough. Out is that offer out there to anyone who can run a 4.8?
No, I think that was what Deion Sanders said to Shiloh in the gym. It was on Bleacher Report yesterday that because Shiloh says, "Oh, I'm gonna run a 4.8," and Deion said, "If you run a 4.8, I'll buy you a new car." So I
Um,
think he doesn't think he'll run a 4.8.
no, I was just gonna say, but if that was a competition, I'll do it. I'll take the
I think
car.
I think in terms of the teams that I think is going to be the strongest, I think Kansas State are going to be a lot stronger this year. Personally,
Yep.
I was obviously I very much backed them last year. I really like their quarterback in Avery Johnson, and again he's another one where he's had another year of just being able to learn college football and build a bit more experience. So I don't think they're going again. Arizona are going to be in with a chance. They're going to be in with a chance of getting the Big 12. But if they don't win the Big 12, I think they could struggle to get into the playoffs just naturally.
Yeah, I that it's a well, but I like the Big 12 as a relatively well balanced conference. I think the gap between bottom and top is not as large as other conferences, I think is probably a better way of putting it. And I'd say on the day, anyone can beat anyone in that conference. I don't think you could say the same thing for most other conferences. Um, but that, as good as that makes some of the football that you will produce, and some of the games are a lot better and all that sort of stuff, that will go against you because you're guaranteed to lose a couple of games. And I promise you, two loss. Well, I say I promise you, but I think two loss Big 12 teams are not both going to be in the top 15. Um, we
No,
saw we saw that with I mean, look, the guys coming over here next year. They had a very, very good season. Both of them did. Both of them were in the top 25. Both of them were a lot closer to 20 than they were to 12. And they had both had very good seasons. I think one wasn't one 10 and 2, the other one 9 and 3 in the end. Um, between Iowa State and
nice.
Kansas State. I think Kansas State was slightly better. Um, I can't remember off the top of my head. I should know this, especially given that we're going to see them in August. But it's a tough it's a tough division to be in. It's well conference to be in. You you automatically lose a few of those brownie points due to the fact you're going to lose a couple of games that year in a season. Arizona State, I see them. I'm quite happy for them to be in the playoffs next year. I'm going to say yes because it's them until it's not. If that
Sam, you're on mute. All right.
Sam, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying Iowa State were 11-3, so
That's it.
what? And Kansas were 9-4.
I was saying 9 and 3. No, sorry, 9 and 3, 10 and 2 because of bowl games, and then you had the bowl games in there. Well, yeah, bowl games in there as well. And Iowa State had the championship game in there as well, so they have the even one more game um in there. So we had 10 and 2, 9 and 3 in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I the best bit though was going to be seeing one of those. Well, seeing both Kansas State and Iowa State in Dublin in on week 0 because we will
Yeah. Whatever.
we will get such a good look at both of those teams. Like we got such a good look at Florida State last year and just how bad they were. Um, it's going to be a fun one. I think that it's an open conference between. Good for you teams. And the last thing I'm going to do, as we all did, most people did last year, we all slept on Arizona State. They were going to be bottom of the conference, and then they won the conference. So
Moving on, Tennessee. Um,
no,
they've got
no,
they've now got a more experienced QB after another year. You know, they're one of those solid all round sort of middle ground teams. I think I think they're reasonably well balanced. Um, a talented secondary. Um, and it's pretty, with the exception of Dylan Sampson at running back, it's pretty much the same again. So
And to be honest, their schedule is not bad.
no,
So they start off at Syracuse, then it's Eastern TN State, Georgia, UAB, MS State, Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky, Oklahoma, NM State, Florida, and Vandy.
because I think if they lost to Georgia and they lost to Alabama, for example, if they lost those two, the key games would be, can they put wins together to beat Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Florida?
Mhm.
Because that if they've lost to the other two, they will need to win those three.
I think for me, Tennessee are in that like that bracket just under the top. What I have as the top three in the SEC. So you've got Alabama, you've got Georgia, and you've got Texas, and I think they're in that like bracket of they could make it, but they could struggle. It just depends on how they do in those games.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure I see them returning this year.
I'm going to. I very quickly reacted. I see them back.
well, obviously we picked the first six to say they were back. We all agreed Boise State weren't coming back, so that's
Hmm
6-1. Did we decide Arizona State are making it or not making it?
I
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will.
I'm saying they will.
Right. Well, you lost 2-1, so 6-2. Um, Tennessee, yes or no?
Yes,
No.
I
Yeah.
agree with every single point that you put out there.
Oh,
I say that
I
my whole reasoning would be essentially exactly what you have said anyway, so I'll just be repeating what you said.
Yeah, I just think if they can win those, that Kentucky, Oklahoma, Florida games, if they can win those, I think they'll be in. I think there's a good chance Tennessee will be back.
They were seventh in the recruitment on three
Yeah,
with
seventh in the SEC, 10th nationally.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
like I say for me they're just one of those teams that's in that bracket of can they, can't they? So
yeah,
I just don't.
coin
I'm just
flip.
going to go with the fact that I think that there's maybe one other team personally that I think is going to get there, who's going to be there over them. That's all it is. It's not going to be that they're necessarily going to be having a bad season or that they don't make it because they're bad. I just think that someone else is going to take that spot.
Have one, two, three. Let me give me a win for them against Georgia in week 3 in
But that would if they win
at
against
Neyland.
Georgia, if they win against Georgia, for me, that drops them out of being in.
But because it's week 3, I don't think it'll end up counting too much against Georgia, depending on how they go. But as we said, Tennessee to Texas, that's a gauntlet. Um, Again, inquiries about that in the email. The I think they could take. I genuinely think they can take Georgia in week 3 at Neyland. Alabama, we'll see about them this year, but I think that's entirely possible if they aren't too much of an improvement on last year. Florida Gators, that's an iffy game for anybody this year, but I also think they could take that one. I There's two losses in there max, and I don't think either of them are guaranteed losses. I think they could easily go 11-1 and go to the SEC championship. Um, I don't see it being too much of an impossibility to see a Texas Tennessee SEC championship. Just the song is tying together so perfectly as we go from Texas to Tennessee in the gauntlet, and that's where it's going to start and end in the SEC.
When you go down this gauntlet, are you going to be driving your Chevy 4x4?
Goddamn right, I am. Um,
Drinking your Jack.
damn right, are we? Yeah, you're damn right. But I think no,
Praising God.
no, not going that
Sipping,
far.
sipping that bit.
Slow down, one step at a time. The Yeah, Tennessee, Texas as an SEC championship game. I don't. I personally, I can very, very happily see that happening. And if you make the SEC championship game, you're in the playoffs.
That's a lot of orange.
That is a lot of orange.
Yes. It's rust orange, burnt orange, bright orange,
Should
sun orange.
Clemson want to just visit and watch for a bit? Denver Broncos
Uh,
turning up.
Syracuse are going to
um,
be all over it as well.
Yeah, Syracuse will somehow claim some sort
Yeah,
of part of it.
they'll claim that they're orange.
If that, by the way, I don't care. When the bracket works, you have to. If you are the playoff committee, you have to somewhat fix the seedings. So when the playoffs brackets go through, whichever one lands in the Orange Bowl has to be that side of the bracket where Texas and Tennessee are. Has to be. That has to
uh,
be what happens because if you can have and then put Clemson in that bracket, and I think we're now just decided Syracuse are making the playoffs. So put that bracket where no matter what you have orange on orange in the Orange Bowl. I think that's
man,
a brilliant idea.
it's like we had the what was it? Was it the Mountain West? The Mountain West division had all the state teams, and we said they
Yeah,
needed to sponsor. All state needed to
yeah.
sponsor that division.
Allstate, State Farm,
Yeah.
any of them.
So
But
moving
yeah,
move
it,
moving away from Tennessee. So are we saying Tennessee are mate? You
yes,
know,
I am.
yeah.
I'm not.
I think Tennessee can be back.
Okay.
Ha! Rub it in Sam's face that he lost 2-1. Don't.
Well, Sam,
Yeah,
you lost 2-1.
but
Sorry,
I didn't kick
you're
up a stink
outvoted.
about it.
It's all right because I think you two are going to outvote me now. So moving on, Indiana.
No.
Oh.
Yes. Um,
Ha! 2-1.
Thank you. That last year was by far and away the biggest Cinderella story of the season. How Indiana won 11 games, I will never know. You know, that's the most in school history. They've got a huge number of returning players. Yeah, I just think they made it into the playoffs. I think they can do it again. I think obviously based on their schedule, I think those first two games are going to be where their season is won and lost is going
Yeah,
to be in those first two games.
they're
Forget
the big.
Penn State, forget Oregon. You know the first two games at Old Dominion. At home to Old Dominion and at home to Kennesaw State. They are the two games that are going to make and break Indiana's season.
I think
And hopefully Old Dominion perform better than Kennesaw State, and then I can win the bet.
yeah, we'll get into that, but there's a friendly wager going on here, Sam. Might need you to be a mediator between it just in case in August, in September. Um, Obviously, Nick's affiliation to Old Dominion, my affiliation to the greatest team in the state of Georgia, Kennesaw State. The We're both very much open to the fact that both teams are going to get beat in this game, but whoever loses by the least amount of points wins something. We need to figure out what it is, but we need to.
The the actually no, because that'll be way too expensive. I was going to say the winner has to, but the winner has to have the jersey of the team bought for them by the other
I,
person,
don't-
but that'd be expensive.
they also, I don't think they do Old Dominion or Kennesaw State jerseys on Fanatics. Uh, not over
Oh,
here, they're not.
You'd have to source it another way.
Exactly, and that's going to cost more than the jersey. I thought a five-star imports might be able to help with that one. But yeah, that's not going to be cheap. Um, Cheaper to get a tattoo saying Old Dominion or Kennesaw State.
Probably would be.
Um, but no, we'll figure
talk,
that one out. But yeah,
talking of talking of 5-star imports.
yes,
Thank you very much. Oh, uh,
this
very
one.
pleased. Yeah. Is your team in that magazine?
Give me half an
It
hour.
was the it was the final magazine. So I didn't when I went through it, I didn't see Michigan in it.
Give me half
There
an
might
hour.
have been a
Is there no
but
mention
Hang
of
on,
them beating
hang
Ohio?
on. Wait for it. Wait for
you
it.
might
Wait for it.
find a line. You might find one line.
Hang on.
Hmm. Oh, we can't see.
Oh
Oh,
no,
what a shame. We can't see.
Oh no!
Oh,
Oh no!
the
What a
right.
shame.
Yeah. So going back to it, I just, I don't mind if you guys think they're not going to make it. That's fine. I just think last year, yes, it could be very
yeah.
good. Yes, it could be last year could be an outlier, but I just think, there is the chance that, they repeat. I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1, but you do look at their schedule. Apart from apart from Oregon and Penn State,
Yeah.
they're the two big ones. So that's there's no reason
I
why they can't rack the wins up.
do think that the Iowa Oregon double could be interesting,
Yeah,
and then obviously
I
then
just,
having to go and then play Penn State in the
it,
third to last game.
Honestly, it's a travel as well though to Oregon, but you do have a bye week in the middle. At
Yeah,
Maryland, at Penn State, then Wisconsin at home, a bye week. I think you have to be more convincing in your wins though, as well. If you're
yeah, that's
Indiana,
going to be the big thing.
they
I think because
have to be
again,
more convincing. It was like generationally good defense.
and again, you're looking at. I don't see them getting. I don't. I just don't see that. If we're talking about the teams that are going to be in and around that, there's three. Obviously, Ohio, Penn State, and Oregon. We're saying are all going to make it back. So we're saying that they're also going to make it back as a fourth Big Ten team.
Oh. No, because I don't think five Big Ten teams will be in there.
This is what I mean. There are a couple others that I think could take over their spot,
Yeah. I'm
or
gonna
just
say
not make it. Oh,
yeah.
I can
Oh,
see
I get
them
it.
obviously losing to Kennesaw State. I can see them losing to. I see them losing to Oregon, Penn State. I can see a couple of other. I can see a couple of others of them if the
I
just
think
being
I
I
can
could.
see
I think
those
pedestrians.
there's.
two. There's
I
those
could.
two, and maybe
I
one
could see
more.
three. I could see three losses.
A three-loss Big Ten team is not making it to the playoffs. I don't think a three-loss team will make it this year.
That's why these teams are at the bottom of our list.
But
'Cause-
I I'm gonna say I just want to say though, that's not an indictment on Indiana as a whole or on the brilliant job that Kurt Signetti's done
yeah,
with the Who's. That's not me. As much as I say no, that's not an impossibility. That's what Kurt Signetti's done and is doing at Indiana is brilliant and should rightly be given a lot of kudos. But I think this will be a very good Big Ten this year. Very, very good Big Ten, and it's going to be very difficult to rack up wins in the conference, let alone you're not getting five in. Big Ten
yeah.
teams maybe four at a push. Well, four. Yeah, I think you get four in.
Right. Moving on, SMU Mustangs. I've just got a simple no.
No.
No,
I haven't even got anything to say. No. Simple
no,
as no.
just no.
Just no.
Um, yeah, no, not a chance.
I think we
I
can move
don't.
on.
Fair enough. And that leaves Clemson, who I was the only one who had faith in last year.
You were.
Bet there'll be, I bet there'll be some more having faith in them this year.
This poses an interesting question. I think, depending on what your answer is. I'm going to say yes.
Right.
I think they will because I think the ACC is weak as fuck.
I was gonna I don't mind showing my hand. I was gonna back Clemson. I was gonna pick Clemson again this year for my ACC.
We
So yeah,
One thing that we couldn't take up. I mean, we all know that the Big 12 and the ACC are obviously always going to be pushed a little bit back when it comes down to how they're viewed and how the conference is viewed. Out of the two, I think the ACC is viewed worse now than the Big 12 is in how much a win means and all that sort of stuff. A lot of what came down last year was again, we did not in any way, shape, or form predict Florida State would be as bad as they were. And
Mhm.
I think at least most of us thought that, well, we all had a different prediction for who was going to win the conference. It was the only one
yeah.
where five different potential winners could have been. But none of us predicted like the way it would have gone. It's a very open conference. I think that Clemson are just they are the standout, and that's again not to put down Clemson, but it's
I mean,
like
again, just some stats for them this year. Offensive line, 4 out of 5 of their starters from last year are returning on the offensive line. You know, they've got a loaded defense. They won last year when they weren't expected to. You know, they've got Clay Kubniak coming back as well. You
yeah,
know, I think he's certainly probably behind Drew Alari. He's probably the second best returning QB.
I was going to
Um,
say, where were you going with that? Because he certainly isn't the best QB or the
no, I
second
think
best.
I think I think Drew Alari is probably one of the best QBs in college football. But I certainly think him and Clay Kubniak are probably the two
The
best
1-2,
returning
yeah, returning,
QBs.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Don't panic. I wasn't. Don't panic.
I was about to jump on you for not for disregarding Arch there.
Well, he's in a league of his own. Um, looking at Clemson's schedule, I think that middle period where they've got to go to Georgia Tech, at home to Syracuse, go to Bill Belichick, and then go to Boston College. I think those 4 games might make or break their season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, I think they've got to come out of that run with a fair few wins.
yeah.
I mean,
I think UNC are going to be interesting this year as well, obviously. Well, they always were going to be seen as interesting because Bill Belichick's there, but
I think they're going to be.
Florida can't be as bad as they were, surely.
They're interesting because of media, though. I don't think they're going to be a particularly interesting team. Um,
They'll be hard. They'll be harder to beat, I think.
they will be. They'll be a lot more disciplined, and we know that about
Mm.
Bill Belichick. But I think UNC become bowl eligible, and that's about it. They are the ACC version of Colorado this year. Maybe not actually. That's probably a bit slightly unfair, but you will have what will feel like a very good season, but you won't be in contention for a championship. You won't be in contention for much more than a bowl game. You just have to be better than last year. That's all you have to be, and they will be. I
I think if
100% believe they will be.
I could see Clemson losing 2 games this year, so it'd be 10-2.
LSU
Yeah.
and
LSU,
who?
and then just one of that period,
Yeah,
that middle period of just tough games. I think they'll just lose one of them, and it won't be down to necessarily, just being bad or anything. It's just it's such a tough run to have to
yeah,
manage. You can't. It's so hard to go and win 4 games on the bounce like that. So I just think that they will lose one of those games.
yeah.
Especially
Um,
when 3 of them are away as well.
Mm.
yeah.
Um, but I think Clemson have an outside chance of getting back. I think it would depend on their performances,
Well,
but
I mean, if they win that ball, I think they'll get to the conference championship, and I think they'll win it
well,
personally.
well, listen. My question I've got like a question for both of you here that relates to it. I've kind of said throughout who I think is going to take which conference. Who do you think is going to get in as the four automatics, and who's then going to have to be an additional seed? So you've got to also think of the other seeding as well. So like we're going to have the four conference winners and the G5. This year worked a bit weird because Clemson won the ACC, but were still ranked extremely low because they didn't get the automatic top four.
Mhm.
So they got pulled down. Who gets the automatic four and out of SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and G5? Are we going to have four conferences? G5 is then in the at-large seedings, or are we going to see who do you think kind of takes those roles? So start with the SEC. Who takes the SEC? I'll say
Texas.
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 Texas. Okay, so then who takes Big Ten as because obviously, like I said, we've got multiple teams on the Big Ten making it, which is fine. But who's the one who takes the automatic bid and gets the bye and wins the conference?
I'm going to say Penn State.
Yeah, I mean it's Penn State or Oregon, I think.
You're not saying Ohio at all.
No, I think I said earlier, I really do fancy Penn State.
Mm.
Um,
Okay, so I'm
I'm
happy to.
I'm going Penn State, but that's
yeah, I'm happy to go Penn State on the basis that I think they really do have the potential to
Right.
go for it.
I'm happy to join in on group thought on this one. I'll go with Penn State as well. I'll take that. So Penn State have got a bye week. ACC. Are we saying Clemson get in purely
Clemson.
on the basis of winning the ACC, or do they get in on talent and someone else wins the ACC? Who
I
takes
think
it?
I think they'll have a 10-2, and I think they'll win the ACC. So it'll be a bit of both.
Yeah, I will take Clemson. I think
Give them the
Clemson will win
championship.
the ACC.
Okay, and then finally the Big 12. Are we gonna go Arizona State as well?
No,
Who takes the Big 12 then, in your opinion?
Kansas State.
Kansas State.
I'm back. I backed them last year. I'm backing them again this year.
It's not. I think Colorado are going to be terrible this year.
Yeah,
Um, you know what? I'm gonna stick my neck out. I'm gonna take BYU.
interesting.
I think I think BYU might. They weren't far away last year.
Right.
They
So
had a good run at one period. I think if they can, yeah.
they're the ones with the Jewish quarterback, aren't they? And everyone thinks it's really weird that BYU, being they're the Mormon university, aren't they? Have got a Jewish QB. It's really funny thing. I can't wait to see more of that this year. Um,
I mean, I don't know. I might change my mind, but right now I'm
okay.
favouring BYU.
Well, let's say this doesn't matter. I'm not kind of counting these as a thing, but like I'm gonna go with Sam here, and I'll say Kansas State purely because I want to go see a winner, and I want to sit there after week 13, week 14, and say I was there when that season started, and we were there for the start of it, and we feel like we were part of something special, which we will be anyway. But well, me and Nick will. We were part of that something
Mm.
special. Um, but no, I'll go with Kansas State. I'm happy to go. I'm happy to go there. I think that any one of three, four teams could win that conference, as I've said already. Arizona State, Kansas State, Iowa State are all within that realm of possibility. Um, and then G5, I'm not necessarily asking for a G5 representative per se, but which one out of ACC, ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, and the G5 representative of the ones that you choose, which of the four getting the bye? Or sorry, who's the one getting the at large one?
I think that whoever the G5 is won't be the four bye teams.
Okay, Nick, how many were missing?
Um, well, we picked well Ohio, Notre Dame, Texas, Penn State, Oregon, Georgia. That's six.
Tennessee.
Um, Tennessee 7, Clemson 8. So you needed an extra 4 on top of that. Um,
So we're saying either or BYU or Kansas State.
mhm.
Yep, I'm gonna throw out there South Carolina. We're very, very good this year, and continuing from last year. That's it. I believe heavily in what they're doing at the moment. Uh, I
I think did we say Alabama were going to be in there? We did, didn't we?
Weimer. I don't think we did. You know,
No, I
I
don't
think
think we did.
I think
Weimer,
Bama will be in there
Weimer, right,
personally.
Weimer. Okay. So is that four SEC teams in there now, or five?
Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. It would then be Bama or South Carolina, one of those two. We'll say,
The four or five.
yeah,
See four. One of those two will get in, but the other one won't. Okay.
yeah.
So that's four SEC teams. Big Ten, we've got Oregon making it, Ohio State making it, Penn State
Penn
making it.
State making it.
That's three. We've had to, well, obviously, based on a democracy, Indiana haven't made it.
That's fine. Notre Dame have as an independent.
Yeah,
I do, yeah. No, I'm just trying to think of who I would take. So I think you'll have a fourth Big Ten team in there.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't think it'll be Michigan
I don't
personally.
either.
And you've
Um,
got a year of learning under a new quarterback. He's because you're gonna. I'm assuming you're gonna be playing Bryce Underwood.
I would assume so, yeah, that Bryce
So
Underwood will be starting.
I think it's. I mean, he could surprise everyone and get you there, but I just think you need a year of him first.
Nebraska. I
I'd be
said it
confident
earlier.
with Nebraska. I'd be
I,
confident with them.
I said earlier I like the look of Nebraska. I think they're going to be very good this year. Dylan Raiola second year.
I'd
I
back
think that
them.
if Dylan Raiola performs to expectations, we'll be talking about him in his junior year and saying if he carries on the trajectory he's going on, we'll be talking about Heisman.
I wouldn't. I mean, we could be looking at the 1-2 quarterback for 2027. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
I'd agree with
My
Nebraska.
my brain's turned into mush now.
I was going to say timing wise, I think we're getting there
Yeah,
for timing. So we'll we'll cut this here. Um, Something I should have mentioned at the start. Well, if you're still here, then
Well
me-
done.
me- Merry Christmas.
the ramblings of three tired people.
Yes, yes. But well, yeah, well done. Merry Christmas. And we have a Discord server. Now, this is important. I need to keep reminding myself to mention this. The off season is tough, but we'll listen to the crap that we'll talk about for 2 hours because it's the off season, and we need something to talk about. Come and join us. Come and talk about all this crap together in our Discord. We have a college football channel a channel dedicated to college football, dedicated to the NFL, dedicated just to the draft, and plenty of other things to get you going. Come and join us. Come talk to us, the hosts, and other people who listen to the podcast. It's a laugh when it gets going. So yeah, feel free to come and join us. Thank you to both of my co-hosts this evening for being absolutely brilliant as always. And we will see you next week for whatever crap we come up with.
I won't. I'm not here.
Oh no, no, you are not.
I'm off.
Hopefully see you next week, uh, Sam. And well, you'll see me either way. Um,
Maybe we
uh,
might see maybe what at some point we might see the return of the elusive Gary.
what he better at?
Well,
I'm starting to I'm getting withdrawals here. Um, but yeah,
to be fair, he's not had much to want to talk about, so I can kind of understand it.
right, okay. So we'll see you next week. Apart from Nick, come join us on our Discord. All the links and everything in the description of the episode, and enjoy the spring games and all that.